Boyd. I'm the executive director for the Atlanta Press Club. And we are so excited to have you with us tonight as we honor our 5 inductees into the Hall of Fame class of 2025 for their excellence in the field of journalism. Bill Nigut, Ernie Johnson Jr., Jon Shirek, J. Lowell Ware, and Janice Ware. We will get started now with some welcome remarks from our title sponsors, Coca-Cola and Southern Company. First up, Skylar Bayman, Vice President of Communications at Southern Company. Welcome, Skylar.
Thank you, Julia, and good evening, everyone. On behalf of Southern Company and all its subsidiaries, it's an honor to welcome you to Atlanta Media's biggest night of the year. We are proud to again serve as co-title sponsor of this celebration of excellence. At Southern Company, we believe that journalism and energy companies share a common purpose: service to the public good. Journalists shine a light on truth to inform and inspire, just as we work every day to deliver energy that powers communities and enables progress. Both professions depend on transparency, trust, and a deep commitment to improving the lives of others. Tonight, we celebrate 5 extraordinary individuals whose work has illuminated Georgia and our nation. Their stories remind us that light, in all its forms, is essential to a thriving and connected society. Once again, welcome, thank you, and enjoy the evening.
All right, thank you, Skylar and Southern Company, for your unwavering support of the Atlanta Press Club. Our other co-title sponsor this evening is the Coca-Cola Company. And I would like to ask Scott Leith, Vice President of Global Strategic Communications, to say a few words.
Okay, seeing as this is a Hall of Fame event, I kind of had history on my mind. So I was thinking about, who in this room would be representing the oldest company or business in Atlanta. So I did some research, ChatGPT, and found that would be Southern Company, because they own Atlanta Gaslight, which was founded in 1856. I think the second oldest business represented in this room is probably one that is employing a bunch of people in this room or has employed a bunch of people in this room, including me, and that's the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. So the Consti was founded in 1868, just after the Civil War. The Journal came along 15 years later, 1883. Now, to this day, those publications serve as the very foundation of media in Atlanta. They were huge rivals for decades, and now they've been corporate siblings also for decades. We also have a bit of history related to the Coca-Cola Company, which is who I'm representing here tonight. So the first Coca-Cola was poured in Atlanta on May 8, 1886. So invented by John Pemberton. John Pemberton's company was on Marietta Street, probably just a few blocks away from the Atlanta Journal. Well, sometime in that month of May 1886, someone from John's company, maybe himself, maybe Frank Robinson, the guy who came up with the name Coca-Cola and the famous script, walked down to the Journal offices and they placed this ad that you see on the screen. And this was the very first Coca-Cola ad that appeared anywhere in the world. I could not even begin to guesstimate how many have been published across all media platforms since then. I couldn't guess how many have probably been done today, but it would be a lot of them. Now, I bring all of this up because I wanted to make sure that one upcoming historical event in Atlanta gets remarked upon tonight, and that is the fact that the AJC is planning to end print publication at the end of this year, which is certainly the end of an era, especially for those of us who've had some time at the AJC. And while it's the end of an era, it's by no means the end of the story as the AJC continues to reinvent itself for a new world. And what I love about this event, why I'm so happy to be here again, is because we're here to celebrate the work of great people who've done tremendous things in Atlanta media. But I also appreciate the work that's happening right now that many of you are doing to help reinvent media as it changes all around us. So we're happy to support you. And on behalf of my colleagues at Coca-Cola who are here in the front of the room, we hope you enjoy your evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. And I love that little piece of history. Also, thank you to Coca-Cola for your commemorative Coke bottles in front of you. Please take them home, because if you do not take them home, I take them home. And I just finished my 2024 batch, so we're moving on to 2025, but please take them home. We are so appreciative of Southern Company and Coca-Cola and their support. They truly make this night possible. Now, please enjoy your dinner, and we will be back to resume the program shortly. Simply by being here this evening, you are helping us support a free and fair press and recognizing, along with us, the importance of integrity of an industry that is constantly under fire. Thanks to supporters like you, the Atlanta Press Club is still pursuing its mission to serve the evolving professional, educational, and social needs of our media community, fostering journalistic excellence and advancing the public's interest in and understanding of a free press. And we could not do it without you here tonight, so we thank you. More important than ever right now. I would also like to say a special thank you to our platinum sponsors, CNN and TNT Sports, our gold sponsors, Wellstar, the Home Depot, Norfolk Southern, and the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and Cox, and to our silver sponsors, Georgia EMC, the University of Georgia, Grady College of Journalism and Mass Communications, Go Dogs, and the Atlanta Hawks. You will also notice in tonight's program a page with all of our annual sponsors listed. Many of them are here tonight, and we thank you all for being part of this evening. I would also like to take a chance to recognize all previous Hall of Fame inductees that are here with us tonight. Can you please stand so we can recognize you? And I know there are a few of you here, because I have seen you. It's great to see you. And I would also like to recognize the Atlanta Press Club Board of Directors. If you are on the board, please stand. And I also know where you are because I seated you all. Unfortunately, our APC board chair, Mike Jordan, senior editor at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, could not be with us here tonight because he had to go to the Michelin Awards. But I am thrilled to introduce in his stead APC treasurer and news director at WRBL, Eric Ledgood, to the stage.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm sorry Mike couldn't be here because Mike deserves the credit for everything that we've achieved this year. Under Mike's leadership, the Atlanta Press Club has had another exceptional year. It was filled with growth, impact, and meaningful connections. From hosting high-profile conversations through our newsmaker and author events, to expanding our summer internship program, to celebrating outstanding journalism in our community at the Awards of Excellence. This year, we added cash prizes. It's been a year to remember. Our members came together for engaging events, insightful panels, and networking opportunities that celebrated the power of storytelling and the importance of a free press. It's been a year of momentum, collaboration, and renewed commitment to supporting journalists and fostering informed communities across the state. We were fortunate enough this year to receive a transformative $265,000 grant from the Arthur Blank Foundation. The club will use those funds to support the 2025 and 2026 cycles of our Loudermilk Young debate series, further strengthening our role as one of Georgia's leading forums for journalism and civic dialogue. This important platform remains a cornerstone of civic engagement, giving voters the opportunity to hear directly from candidates and engage with the issues that shape our communities. We are deeply grateful to the Blank Foundation for their commitment to an informed democracy. Looking ahead, we anticipate an especially robust 2026 debate cycle, you thinking? And actively seeking additional support to expand this vital work. To learn more, you can go to atlantapressclub.org/debates. The Atlanta Press Club is stronger than ever, and that is due to the amazing engagement from our members, sponsors, and our board. I also want to take the time to thank our small but mighty staff. Julia Boyd, our executive director, Julia has transformed our day-to-day management, and of course, we must say hello to Paula Hovatter. She's here, we're here because of her. So thank you, Paula. So thank all of you for joining us and for supporting and promoting a responsible and sustainable media ecosystem in Metro Atlanta. These are wild times for the media industry, and they are especially difficult in the news business. Mistrust in the media, coupled with fierce economic headwinds, make doing what we do harder than ever, at a time when doing what we do is more important than ever. In 2026, we will continue to bring you education, networking, newsmakers, internships, and of course, debates. So now, on to the show. Tonight, we are thrilled to have as our MC. She told me I can't read everything that I have here, so I won't. I will simply say she is an icon, she is an example, she is Karen Greer from WSB-TV.
You listen well, thank you. Well, good evening. We want to keep this show on the road. We are so excited to be here. What another great night. It is so wonderful to see so many dear friends, colleagues of past, of present, and to just be here for an important night. Atlanta Press Club means so much to me. I remember when it started. That's how long I've been around. Maria Supporta, stand up again. I remember her dream, her vision for what would be the Atlanta Press Club, so much more than what they're doing with the National Press Club. We had nowhere to meet, nothing to do, but she worked it out. And now look at us. Is this not an amazing night? We are so excited, and to all of our wonderful, esteemed colleagues. As Eric said, yeah, this is a time that we need to be together to support each other. So let us begin by supporting each other and awarding our wonderful Hall of Fame honorees. We've got a great group of inductees this year, and we are going to get it started. Time to recognize our five inductees. For each of these inductions, we will play a short documentary about the honoree. Next, we will invite the presenter to come to the stage, give a brief speech, and then present the award to the inductee or family member who will come to the stage and accept the award. We're going to make this nice and quick. Let them do the talking, right? You don't want to hear from me. So our first inductee of the evening, another former WSB alum. Let's hear it for Mr. Bill Nigut.
and some 30 students from Crown Elementary
Tom Brokaw once said,
have been taken to area hospitals.
people who are drawn to journalism are interested in what happens from the ground up,
Live reports, Bill Nigut.
less than they are from the top
The
down.
latest from them.
Thank you, Jim. It has been a rather frightening afternoon.
Naturally curious, journalists often find stories in unexpected or overlooked places.
Bill Nigut, WSB.
But some go beyond the surface. They dig deeper, pushing boundaries to uncover the human stories that resonate far beyond the headlines. These storytellers bring a distinct sensitivity and integrity to their work and relationships, leaving an enduring imprint on the world around them. That's Bill Nigut.
He was a reporter for a long time. He's been a broadcaster. He's been an advocate for human rights. He's been an advocate for the arts. He's been a political radio show host, and he's been an extraordinary husband, father, and friend. And if I had to characterize Bill, I would say he's characterized by the word exuberance. It's not just exuberance. He's interested in meeting people, touching people, helping people. And I would term the phrase consequential exuberance.
Good evening and welcome to Lawmakers. I'm Bill Nigut.
Consequential exuberance. Not words we necessarily think of when describing anyone or anything connected to politics.
Talking about politics.
But Bill has been able to bring his own spark of energy and light to the political stories that he's covered and produced for more than 4 decades.
Well, I can't tell you about Bill's work ethic. Other than he gets the story, he gets the lead, he gets the tip, which suggests that people trust him. And they trust him because of his work ethic, because of his integrity, because of his honesty.
Above all, Bill truly likes people, and it's clear they feel the same about him.
I think what you saw with Bill is what you got. He was the same in private as he was in public. When he was talking to you, when the cameras weren't on, he was just as interested in what you were saying as he was when the cameras were on.
A Chicago native, Bill discovered his journalistic niche in the world of politics. He's been at the forefront of every presidential election since Reagan faced Mondale, asking the tough questions we all wondered about from our living rooms, and capturing the behind-the-scenes moments that have shaped American politics. Yet Bill may be best known for bringing his distinctive style of reporting and analysis to Georgia's political landscape, both on camera and behind the scenes as a producer.
Well, the other thing I would say about why he has survived, and what he passes on to the media, is that he's been able to work in different environments. He's worked in television. He's worked in the not-for-profit sector. He's worked in radio. If you look at his posts now, he's working online with social media. So he uses his communication skills in numerous ways.
Beyond his journalism career, Bill has contributed his talents to the Metropolitan Atlanta Arts and Culture Coalition and the Anti-Defamation League. His skill in bridging diverse worldviews and philosophical perspectives has been key to his enduring success, reflecting an unwavering integrity both to his craft and to the communities he serves.
He never saw a story that was too good to verify. He was careful. He made sure that what he was reporting was accurate. He made sure that the questions he asked were relevant. And he made sure, as I've mentioned, that he went to the heart of the question. So that was, I think, infectious with other young reporters. I think he made a big difference in those he influenced in the journalistic profession because he was right at the head of it for a long, long time. And the effect we have on young people, whether we're in public servant or whether we're in journalism, may be our most enduring contribution to the future of our country.
Bill's impact on the next generation extends well beyond journalism.
Just you white.
Good. Now.
You'll be sorry, but your tears will be too light.
musicals enlighten us, inform us, remind us of our humanity and our shared humanity.
Nowadays, you'll find him teaching a course on Broadway musicals at Emory University, embracing his lifelong passion for the arts, which have always brought richness and depth to his life.
Tradition!
That is, when he's not cheering on the Chicago Bears or Da Bulls.
And Bill, I hope you'll take this time to kind of let it wash over you and enjoy it. And this consequential exuberance has characterized your work, your family life, and you are a wonderful, wonderful person.
The Atlanta Press Club is proud to induct Bill Nigut into the Atlanta Press Club Hall of Fame.
I'd now like to ask Kevin Riley, former editor of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, to please come to the stage.
Okay, Bill, I hope you're ready for this. On Friday, June 30th, 2023, I walked into the Georgia Public Broadcasting radio studios, and I didn't know what to expect. I'd agreed to interview Bill on the air for his last Political Rewind show. I expected a tough morning. I was wrong. Sitting on the other side of the glass was Bill's family. This was going to be a celebration, not a requiem. And it was, with a great after party. And his family is here tonight. So I had this great plan for introducing him tonight. I'd get his family to send me some anecdotes about life with Bill. Then I'd fashion it into an erudite introduction, one befitting my close and greatly accomplished friend. But that idea quickly fell apart. The stories his family sent were so loving, so wonderful, and so insightful, I can't mess with them. I will just read parts of them to you. You may think you know Bill Nigut because he connects so easily with you on the air. And well, let's be honest, he's been around a long time. But there's more to know, and it shows that despite his enormous journalism success, his personal life is what really drives him and leads him to that success. So this from his son, Bill. He took me to the 2000 Republican National Convention. I was 11. The day before the acceptance speech, he took me down to the floor, and we happened to catch George W. Bush rehearsing. Bush called out my dad by name. We went up on stage and had a moment and a photo with the future president. To me, it represents my dad's commitment to exposing me to a larger world at a young age. From his daughter, Emma, who refers in these comments to the early stages of her theater career in New York, something Bill pursued as a young man. Every day I'd get up and haul myself into the city to sit in rehearsals with movie stars and Broadway legends, where I felt like a complete, utter phony. I would take cry breaks in taxi cabs and call my dad, who devoured every last detail of my day. We were connected through time. When he was in his 20s, he was exactly where I was, pursuing the same exact thing. I could feel his pride, and he'd infuse my day with the understanding that I'd one day look back on all of this terror with the same fondness that he had now. And finally, his wife, Janice. She recalls her mother's recent passing. At the end, when I was living at my mom's and frankly losing my mind, Bill would show up every single morning with my fave Starbucks drink and a hug to steady me. He was there when she struggled, and he was there when she died. He cleaned the house for the Shiva and held my hand at her gravesite. He was patient and loving, and listened when I was lost, and he's helped me find my way back to this new normal. And he did it wearing a brown cowboy hat and a pair of boots because secretly he is a dreamboat cowboy. Ladies and gentlemen, 2025 Hall of Fame inductee, Bill Nigut.
Hey, everybody. First of all, I want to say it was incredible. Richard Crabb, who does the videography for these events, is so wonderful, and he did a lot of work for all of us. And I want to say thank you to you, Richard, for... You can't hear me? Wow. I love that, brief history of my loss of hair. Thank you so much. Kevin Riley, I'm really grateful for your words. Mark Rosenberg, you did that video. I want to say something real quickly about Kevin and Mark. We're living in times when there's an awful lot of writing these days about how men are bad at making friendships. And over the last 5 years, Kevin Riley and Mark Rosenberg and I have become, I think it's fair to say, best friends. We consult with each other, talk to each other several times a week. And most important, in addition to the serious things we talk about, we really make each other laugh a lot. And these are times when I think laughter is so important. So I'm especially grateful to you, Kevin and Mark. A couple of words about the people you're honoring here tonight. Jon Shirek was a lovely human being. He did his work with dignity and quietly. He never wanted to call attention to himself. But he was an excellent journalist and a wonderful writer, and there were times when I looked at Jon, who never demanded the spotlight, and thought just how extraordinary he was, and I'm glad that you're honoring him here tonight. The Wares, I grew up in Chicago, and for me, the Defender was the big black newspaper in town, and I always loved seeing it because it told me stories I didn't see in the 4 daily newspapers I grew up with. And so I'm glad when I got to Atlanta, I saw the Atlanta Voice and had the same experience, so my congratulations. Ernie Johnson, you and I go back a very, very long way. I remember a day, you told me tonight, I realized it was 1989. I said I had a story about you, and this is it. I was co-anchoring with a woman named Kimberly Kennedy, the news. Ernie was our weekend sports guy. And he walked into the 6 o'clock news one night before the show went on the air, and he announced to Kimberly, and I said, before anybody else knows, I want you to know I'm leaving. And we were shocked because he was phenomenal. We said, what are you talking about? He said, well, my contract is coming up. The general manager, who shall remain nameless, said to me, Ernie, I'll give you a 5-year extension on your contract as long as you know you're kind of meant to be a weekend sports guy. Well, that changed. And Ernie, watching your spectacular career has brought me great, great joy. By the way, that general manager also told me I would never be a political reporter. Couldn't hear? Wow. So I'll start all over. No, I won't. I'm really grateful to the Atlanta Press Club. I honestly was surprised, grateful, of course, that you would really want to honor me this way. So I just want to say some things about my work. I've been so fortunate. I've had just opportunities that don't come along every day. I had news directors at Channel 2 News who said to me, go cover politics, do it your way. Follow the stories wherever they take you, anywhere around the country. Go to the White House and Capitol Hill when you think there are stories that need to be covered for us here, there. And Cox backed it all up by giving me essentially in those earlier days an unlimited budget to do it well. And that was an extraordinary thing. Then Taya Ryan over at Georgia Public Broadcasting invited me to come and do a daily radio show. In fact, I did 2 shows for Taya. One was politics, the other was more about arts and entertainment. And I was able to do that show for almost 10 years. Again, nobody told me what to say, what not to say, what to do and not to do. When I was let go, and I was let go, Andrew Morse, the publisher of the AJC, who is here tonight with a great group of AJC managers and reporters at the AJC, and Jennifer Dorian at WABE came together and invited me to come work on the new show they were putting together, Politically Georgia, which I got to do with Bluestein and Patricia Murphy and Tia Mitchell, and I'm always grateful for that opportunity to do that. Andrew, I know you're here tonight. By the way, people should know, they should follow you on social media because Andrew has a son who's going to be one of the great stars in college football in the months ahead. So I've had all this great luck. And I'm also really thrilled to say I'm coming back to WABE this week. Saturday, we start a brand new show weekly because I really can't deal with the daily grind anymore. A weekly show called In These Times, which will bring together some of our former political panels, but also do things in the arts and talk to just plain interesting people. So I have one last message. You already know this, and we've heard it already once. We are living in, without any question, the most challenging times for political journalists that any of us have ever seen. We find ourselves caught between deeply divided listeners, readers, viewers, and they always say these different people want us to do stories that confirm their preconceived beliefs rather than challenge them. That's not everyone, but it's a big enough group of people that we understand the way they feel. It's difficult because of that for journalists, I think, to present nuanced, fact-based reporting without being accused of bias by the people who disagree with us. And I think it's even harder these days to interview political figures, elected representatives, and other leaders in politics because we feel a little bit nervous of what I think is one of our major responsibilities, which is to hold them accountable, respectfully hold them accountable when they spread misinformation, when they demonize people who disagree with them. We cannot offer forums for mistruths and lies. In many ways, our jobs, by the way, I get as a political reporter, because I've been there, access to the people who are political leaders is a key to our success. And how we balance being honest with them, being willing to push back when they say something that is misleading or false, is a challenge because we can lose access at any moment. But the fact is, it's our readers, our viewers, and our listeners who are the people we're responsible for, not the politicians who we cover. So I say all that to say, I know we're living in terribly difficult times, but as you've already heard it said here by a couple of other people, we really are a safeguard against the collapse of so many of our institutions. And I think we have to take that responsibility very seriously and do our job in informing people without regard to whether they love what we tell them every day or not. Thank you again. It's been such a great honor to be here.
Great job, Chicago native. Awesome, awesome. Again, congratulations to Bill Nigut. Next, we honor another WSB alum, and he mentioned him, Mr. Ernie Johnson, Jr.
Atlanta Press Club Hall of Fame. Godfather, man, we're so proud of you. It couldn't happen to a better guy. I want to thank you for being the leader of our team for my 25 years. I think Kenny's been there like 28, and I think Shaq's here between 12 and 15. Man, we would not be successful without you. You're the leader of our team. That's why we call you the Godfather. Congratulations, man.
And your name, sir?
It's been said
Johnson?
that when we make plans,
Yes, Mr. Johnson, I've got something pretty special for you here. Just pull over here in the little yellow loading zone right there.
God
Yeah.
laughs.
Yeah. So everybody, welcome to the celebration.
We spend our lives drafting careful plans, yet it is the unforeseen, the joys and sorrows beyond our control, rarely scripted and arriving without warning, that shape us the most. Few understand this more deeply than Ernie Johnson Jr.
Obviously, when I met Ernie, he was working for the local news. And then he left there and he went to Spartanburg.
It's tough to keep cool during this heat wave.
And then we both decided that we were going to move back to Atlanta. And so he went and interviewed at WSB and became one of their reporters. Then they asked him to fill in as a sports reporter. From there, he was noticed, and from then on, it's just been history.
43 years of marriage, 6 children, 5 grandchildren, and all the highs and lows that weave through a family over the course of a life both remarkably ordinary and quietly extraordinary. Ernie Johnson Jr. once dreamed of following in his father's footsteps, both on and off the field. But during his college days, he left behind a future in baseball and leaned into a new calling, broadcasting.
Ernie Johnson in Atlanta with the Prudential Halftime Report, joined by Charles.
Over time, he carved out his own space in the world of sports, earning respect and admiration with his signature blend of wit, humility, and a meticulous eye for detail. That style, it wasn't manufactured. It was shaped in part by a gentle nudge from a colleague.
Finally, one night early on, I turned prompter off, and he went crazy. But I couldn't convince him that it was great. And I chased him down into the studio saying, Ernie, come on, it was good, it was good. And as I walked in, a coffee cup whizzed by my head and smashed against the wall. The next day, I bought him a new coffee cup that said something goofy on it. And he really enjoyed that and said, I think this guy might know what he's talking about.
Deeply committed to his craft, yet never without his trademark warmth and humor, Ernie Johnson has won the hearts of fans, viewers, and colleagues alike.
Humility, that's his probably number one attribute. His professionalism, his attention to detail, those are all great qualities. This kind of a backhanded compliment. They're like, how does Ernie keep his circus under control most of the time? Which we are clowns, but we would not be the success that we have had if it wasn't for him.
It's difficult to juggle all that. That's why he's so good, because he makes it look effortless.
Ernie Johnson is a man respected on the air, admired in the field, and most importantly, cherished at home.
I know that Ernie is an amazing broadcaster and, one of the best sportscasters and continues to be recognized for that. But from our perspective, he's a much better man. And, it's funny, over the years, people have said, well, gosh, what a great job, because you show up for an hour, you hang out with your friends, and you move on. But Ernie actually works from home almost every day of the week.
Ernie Johnson brings a level of preparation and poise that sets him apart, not just as a great broadcaster, but as one of the most respected voices the industry has ever known.
When you talk about the great leaders in broadcast and journalism, he's right up there. You talk about Bob Costas, the leaders of shows. It's Bob Costas, Ernie, Mike Tirico, guys like that who are like, they're the best at what they do.
Yet the highest honors come from a life richly lived away from the spotlight.
We do have 6 children. We had 2 biological children, and then we adopted 4 children. 3 were special needs. I think we've given a better perspective to the world for our children and for those who may interact with Ernie. There's so much more to this life than just the job that he does.
Inside the NBA host Ernie Johnson has been
Ernie may have said it best himself in a CBS segment called Note to Self.
You grew up with parents who instilled in you the values of hard work, determination, resolve, love, respect, and faith. Those will carry you through that career I just outlined. But keep this in mind. Your job is what you do. It's not who you are.
If you did not know Ernie from what he did, you wouldn't know it from his home life. For over 30 years, we've had Sunday dinner. That's a big tradition that he looks forward to every week.
A life both beautifully ordinary and profoundly extraordinary, entirely unscripted. The Atlanta Press Club is proud to induct Ernie Johnson Jr. into the Atlanta Press Club Hall of Fame.
And join me in welcoming presenter Charles Davis, Dean of the Henry W. Grady College of Journalism and Mass Communications at the University of Georgia. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. When Ernie texted me asking if I would introduce him, I leapt at the opportunity. Virtually leapt. I'm not really leaping these days, but I attempted to leap. Ernie Johnson Jr., the Atlanta Press Club Hall of Fame, sign me up. A few days later, it dawned on me that I had, as is my tendency, blundered into an impossible assignment. What am I to do? Tell y'all that Ernie's a great guy? That he's worthy of induction? Everyone on planet Earth knows that he is. So what new could I bring to the table to honor a man that has been the NBA Man of the Year, the 2021 National Sports Media Association National Sportscaster of the Year, along with some other guy named Scott Van Pelt, a 2023 inductee into the Sports Broadcasting Hall of Fame, a guy with more sports Emmys, 8, than enemies, 0. You see what I mean? Impossible. But then it hit me. Rather than drone on about Ernie's countless career achievements, his career beginning with hockey corner on WUOG, while a student at Grady College, to WMAZ in Macon, to WSPA in Spartanburg, to WSB, and then, of course, Turner, and the NBA on TNT. I'd simply talk about Ernie, my friend, the alum of my college, the moments I have been privileged to share with him that tell me everything I need to know about the man that he is. Story 1. Every year, I ask Ernie to come over to Grady and speak to my career explorations class. It's a bunch of freshmen. They're new to college. I spend a semester talking with them about career pathways, various opportunities in the college. Between his myriad commitments, Ernie finds time, and for several years, he'd bring his son, Michael. If you never met Michael, then I'm sorry. Michael brightened every room that he ever entered, and he greeted our students with the big "Go Dogs" every time. Brought down the house. We lost Michael in 2021, but I'll never think of him without grinning because of those "Go Dogs" cheers that regaled my class every single time. Story 2. On another one of those class visits, as class was ending, Ernie had, as is his fashion, killed it. And there was a line of about 40, I'm not kidding, 40 students queued up to talk to Ernie after class. Class was over. This went on for, 20 minutes probably. And then I looked behind me and I saw the head of a young man in the window, sort of looking impatiently into my classroom, when it dawned on me that signal that all professors have, oh my God, there's another class coming in. So I went out and talked to the young man and he said, yeah, I'm in here next. I'm in here in 10 minutes. I've got like a chemistry class or something. And I said, well, okay. So I went back to Ernie. I said, Ernie, they got a class coming in. There's still 30 kids in the line. Ernie goes, all right. Isn't there a Jittery Joe's downstairs? Coffee shop? And I said, yeah. He said, come on. So he takes all 30 kids to the Jittery Joe's, puts them in a line, says, I got it. Order what you want. They're all out of their minds. They wait in line, get their coffee. They go outside, and there are a group of little concrete benches outside. This is a class that begins at 4, okay? It's in the fall. So it's now 5:15. The sun is setting. Time has changed. It's getting dark. Ernie holds forth for 15, 20 minutes to the 30 or so kids that are still assembled. And I was like, Ernie, I gotta go. Because I needed to go over and answer a couple emails and make a phone call. So I run across to Grady. Ernie's in there in what is becoming darkness, talking to 30 rapt students. I'm in my office for an hour. I'm not kidding. Answering email, return a phone call, get in my truck, come around the corner, and just on the off chance, I'm like, there's no way, right? I come around the corner, in the dark, under some lights, is Ernie with 30 kids. Not one of them is left. It's 6:45 p.m. Sorry, Cheryl. I texted him later. I'm like, when did you get out of there? And he's like, 7:30, 8 o'clock or something. That's Ernie, right? Story 3. Gentleman's playing golf in Brazelton, Georgia. You don't know this one, Ernie. Gentleman's playing golf in Brazelton, Georgia. He hits an errant tee shot into a gentleman's backyard who happens to be sitting on his deck. The gentleman goes to retrieve his golf ball when somebody on the deck goes, it's right down there. The gentleman looks up and says, are you Ernie Johnson? And he says, yeah, and that's your golf ball. And so while retrieving his golf ball, the gentleman says, I was at the commencement ceremony at UGA last spring. I just want to tell you what a great job you did. You were amazing. And Ernie said, well, thank you. He's like, who were you there for? He's like, my granddaughter. She's a Grady graduate. She graduated from Grady College in the spring. And in fact, today, she is starting her first day at an advertising agency in Greenville, South Carolina. And Ernie Johnson said, do you have her cell phone? And Grandpa said, well, of course I do. And Ernie said, call her. So they called her, and Ernie got on the phone and said, hi, congratulations. I hear it's your first day of work. I'm so proud of you, Ernie Johnson. That, ladies and gentlemen, is Ernie Johnson. I've had not nearly enough memories with him, but everyone I've had, it's been additive to my life. I'm a better person. We're all better people because he's here. Thank you, Ernie, and congratulations.
Give this to him and take your picture. I'll hold the screen here. I know. It's heavy. It's heavy. You guys come here and take a picture. Up forward, yep, and take a picture.
Thanks.
Charles Davis, the Dean of the University of Georgia. College of Journalism and Mass Communications. Thank you, sir. Thank you to Bill Nigut for going 9:06. We're supposed to keep these to 5 minutes. Bill went 9:06. I got free reign tonight, boys and girls. No, I appreciate it. I was saying, I've never been able to do anything in 5 minutes. Georgia was very special to me. And that's why it meant the world for you to come up and do this. Because I think when we all think back on our careers and how they started, it was a UGA for me. It was guys like Bill Martin, who one Saturday night on his terrace in an apartment building in Athens has me and everybody else in our class up there for pizza and a couple of beers and talk about journalism. It was incredible. It's guys like Marcus Bartlett, who was a legend. You'd come into his classroom and he would say, "Put your stuff away. For the next 90 minutes, you're going to talk to David Dick from CBS News. He's in town to do a story. Fire at him anything you want." And so when I go to Georgia now, and I look out and I see these kids, I see me. I see me sitting there saying, man, this is the greatest. I get to talk to a guy who's actually in the business. And that's why I do it, because it was that impactful for me. I mean, Bill, you know, it's when you have a night like this, how can you not reflect on the places you've been? And it's like, okay, anchoring the news in Macon, Georgia without a teleprompter, looking like this. Look like a dog in the back seat on the Spartanburg, South Carolina for a year. While I'm dating Cheryl Ann, who I met in Macon. I met Cheryl Ann in Macon. I'm anchoring the news. Okay, it's my first TV job. I take my check to the CNS Bank, where she is a drive-in teller, and she is working her way through school, working 2 jobs at Mercer. And she looks at my paychecks and says, "What do you do at Channel 13?" And I'm like insulted. I said, "Well, I anchor the news, of course." "Where have you been?" And she says, "Well, I'm working 2 jobs and I work with big brothers, big sisters." I said, Stop, okay, you're better than me. So anyway, then I go to Spartanburg, South Carolina, and Cheryl makes it abundantly clear we're not going to live there. And then you get that call from WSB in Atlanta. And they say, "We got your tape. We got an opening. Can you start in 2 weeks?" See, this job and this business provide these great highs. I mean, I always refer to it as a get-to job, not a got-to job. We get to do this. But when you walk into a newsroom at WSB TV as a general assignment reporter, and you see Wes Sargentson and Monica Kaufman and B.B. Emmerman and Lynn Harrison and Ernie Bjorkman and all these, you're like, oh, what the hell am I doing here? Which is kind of the way I feel here tonight. You just can't describe it. And I look at this Hall of Fame, and I look at Furman Bisher and Louis Grizzard. And I remember those days when the Constitution was the morning paper and the Journal was the afternoon paper, and there was Jesse Outler and there was Furman Bisher and then Tom Brokaw's in there, and it's like, what the hell am I doing in there? And I appreciate it so much. Appreciate my wife Cheryl Ann, who's been with me every step of the way. 43 years she's put up with me. Because you need that. You need somebody who's understanding, who knows what this business is all about. And Bill was very poignant and had some great points about the media these days. And I can't even come close to topping that because I host a show where I'm asking, and Shaquille O'Neal and I are talking about what's closer, Los Angeles or the moon? Because I can walk outside and I can see the moon, but I can't see Los Angeles. And we'll be right back. And so much of this job is about encouragement, about people along the way who have helped you out and have told you you can do it. And you can't go without that. You need it. You need somebody in Spartanburg who says, yeah, you got the stuff to go there. And my mom and dad were the biggest encouragers of all time. And my wife has heard this story a million times. And I'm going to share it with you because it's really good. So I'm anchoring the news in Macon, Georgia. 6 o'clock news. My mom and dad are on their way back from West Palm Beach, Florida, where the Braves had spring training. Yeah, go Braves. And as fate would have it, they are driving through like Perry, Georgia, or Unadilla, or somewhere down there in middle Georgia. And my dad looks at his watch and says, hey, it's almost time for the 6 o'clock news in Macon, and I bet we can pick it up here. And so Ernie and Lois Johnson stop at a hotel. It's 5 minutes to 6. My dad rushes in. There's the guy at the front desk. He said, I need a room for a half hour. You can't make this up. My mom is standing next to him like this. No, we just want to watch the news. And the guy's like, all right, Ernie. That's what you need. You need support. You need good folks to work with. And here would be my encouragement for you tonight as I close. Look, we all have people in our lives who got us where we are right now. You know, I started out as a news reporter at Channel 2, and then I moved into sports because a news director named Rabin Matthews takes over, and I'm filling in for a sports guy on the first day, and I come into work the next day, and his assistant calls me over and says, Rabin wants to see you. And I'm like, this guy cleans house in no time, doesn't he? I mean, I'm looking for a box to put my stuff in. And he calls me in his office and says, ever think about doing sports? That was good last night. And that changed the trajectory of my career. It can happen. I tell college students that all the time. Be well-rounded. Don't just focus on one thing. And it's such a subjective business that somebody might hate you, somebody might love you. But it changed everything. And that got the folks at Turner calling me, and I've been there ever since. And this bunch of Turner folks over here at this table, please, from TNT Sports, please stand up. And Bobby Height, who is my representative at Career Sports and Entertainment. Thank you all for being here tonight. And this is awesome. So thanks to the Atlanta Press Club. It's good for my soul. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Let's hear it again. Ernie Johnson, Jr. Absolutely.
I'm going to get a scholarship to King's College. You probably wouldn't, man, I'm amazed and astonished. I got a lot of brains, but no polish. I got to holler just to be heard with every word. I drop knowledge, I'm a diamond in the rough. A shiny piece of coal trying to reach my goal. My power of speech, unimpeachable. Only 19, but my mind is older. These New York City streets get colder by shoulder. Every burden, every disadvantage I have learned to manage. I don't have a gun to brandish. I walk these streets famished. The plan is to fan this spark into a flame, but dang, it's getting cold. My name, I am A-L. Hold it. I am the A-L-E-X-A-N-D-E-R. We are meant to be.
Yes. Once again, Ernie Johnson Jr. Wow. Next up, we will posthumously honor someone who meant so much to the Atlanta Press Club, to Atlanta, to Georgia, to so many of us. A former 11 Alive alum who left us way too soon, Jon Shirek.
Say when.
When friends and colleagues describe Jon Shirek,
80% of all fatal teen wrecks.
Certain qualities shine through time and again.
It's more important than ever.
Humility, kindness, and mastery. Jon Shirek was more than just a journalist.
He set the standard, I think, for the newsroom because he was such an amazing journalist and had his beautiful writing and that voice of authority that he had. And he was also, a very serious person. And I think everybody in the newsroom kind of looked to him to see where the bar was. And it was very high with Jon Shirek.
Jon's career spanned nearly 5 decades, building a legacy most journalists only dream of.
In the 30 seconds that the television commercial is in the air, it dances for us, flirts with us.
An Emmy Award-winning reporter, a respected storyteller, and a legendary writer, Jon made his mark across radio, television, and print. His focus was always on the work and on the people behind the stories.
What he's got to do is present this card at the checkout stand.
Look at the way he avoided bringing attention to himself. I mean, if you just go back and watch some of the news stories he put together, no one will ever be able to write the way Jon did, because believe me, I tried, and I just never could emulate that writing style. And it was his own. But more than anything, if you just look at the way he didn't bring attention to himself, the story was about the people that the camera was pointed at. It was their story, not his.
Tonight, Governor Brian Kemp trying to shift.
As the news industry changed around him,
He joins us live from Midtown Atlanta.
Jon remained a steady, trusted presence both in the newsroom and throughout the city. Whether covering inflation and rising prices,
I can remember being on the downtown connector. It was deserted.
or Atlanta's latest Snowmageddon, Jon brought a masterful touch, infusing every story with depth, insight, and genuine sensitivity.
There was one of those unusual ice storms in Atlanta, and right next to Woody's, Virginia Avenue comes downhill and hits Monroe. And he did a whole story catching cars, slipping up and down and all that. And I live right near there, and it was just, he brought a level of humor but sensitivity to every story that he wrote.
Jon Shirek has... Year after year, Jon quietly embodied hard work and dedication, a natural role model to both young and old.
The throttle on Edward Ryder's car had stuck open.
With a deep love for truth and the art of beautiful words,
Across Piedmont during rush hour.
he wove them together with effortless grace.
Came out of it without a scratch. the state took Ryder's license away from him.
You know, this car practically drives itself.
Because it is, after all, a license to live.
We would have interns come through, and I think he was definitely a person who could take them under his wing.
If you asked him to do the impossible, Jon would do it without complaint. And that's just a wonderful example to have around the newsroom, especially from a veteran reporter. The young reporters were coming in and seeing what Jon did and how he worked so hard, and they would go, maybe that's what I should do.
Those who knew him revered his unwavering integrity and admired the heart and soul he brought to every story.
If there's a dominant viewpoint among community leaders, it's that they truly believe integration will come naturally to Forsyth County.
His journalism, marked by empathy,
Jon Shirek is live at the jail.
Passion, and profound impact, was truly without equal.
Jon, to me, exemplified what a true great journalist is, and that's someone who can cover a story with sensitivity, with humility, and with humanity. And I think a lot of journalists, sometimes young journalists, may not understand how important those traits are.
Despite his best efforts not to, Uncle Jon stood out.
Gone too soon, barely a year after his retirement, Jon is remembered not only for his impeccable work ethic and poetic writing, but the profound way he made each of us feel.
Jon was just such a calm presence and such an unbelievably good writer. You know, he was under the pressure of deadline. He'd be up there scribbling in his notepad on the front seat of the car, you know, up against the dashboard, and he would somehow come up with this brilliant script that would have taken me years to write.
Welcome to the Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young debate series from
Beyond his work with the debate committee, Jon played a key role in launching the Atlanta Press Club Hall of Fame, an honor he humbly tried to avoid throughout his career. Though he never sought recognition for himself, Jon deeply understood and celebrated excellence. More than anything, he loved to see others shine.
He never brought attention to himself. He was always so caring. When he did a story, you really felt his empathy for the people that were the subject of his stories. Even if you didn't work with Jon, you recognized that part of him, how much he cared.
An unforgettable legacy that will endure both in the newsroom and the heart of Metro Atlanta.
We can't know as much as the people we're covering about the story that's important to them. We don't have that context. But we can bring our own eyes and our own mind and our own heart to their world to bring a fresh perspective and a fresh look at it. If you know that you've done such a good job that they don't notice you, they notice the story, then that's good. That's kind of what you hope for.
The Atlanta Press Club is proud to induct the late Jon Shirek into the Atlanta Press Club Hall of Fame.
His voice, his eyes, his patience with all of us. Stand up, 11 Alivers. Where are you? My former 11 Alive colleagues, please stand up. We know what George and current, we know what Jon has meant to all of us. Donna Lowry, I see you back there. This means so much to so many. And another 11 Aliver who is really here to make this mean so much now at Dateline NBC. Please join me in welcoming Blaine. Come on up. Blaine Alexander, correspondent, Dateline NBC News.
Thank you so much, Karen. I have to be honest with you, when Nancy first called me and asked me to introduce Jon for tonight, I was frozen by just the enormity of this honor. There are countless people in this room, people across Atlanta and beyond, that could speak for hours about Jon and his impact. But I stand here tonight as part of a special group, a group of young journalists, or formerly young journalists, who had the honor of sharing a newsroom with Jon Shirek. and thus being de facto graduates of what I've come to call the Jon Shirek School of Journalism. I first came to Atlanta as a reporter when I was 24 years old. I was fresh out of my first reporting job in Augusta, barely 3 years out of college. And I've said before that when I walked into that newsroom on the first day at 11 Alive News, there were people who had been reporting in that newsroom longer than I had been on this earth. So if you want to know the definition of intimidating, that was it. One of those reporters was Jon Shirek. And in those first months, I spent a lot of time just watching, observing, learning everybody in the newsroom, and it became very clear to me very quickly that Jon Shirek was somebody that I needed to watch and that I wanted to learn from. One of the reasons was that I saw very early on that Jon could and did report on anything and everything. Jon had this incredible mastery of two reporting skills that don't inherently always go together. One, he knew the subject matter and he knew it well. Jon is someone who was deeply studied in all things Georgia reporting because he'd been here, he'd done it, he'd reported on it, he'd talked to people. He had this incredible cachet of knowledge and, importantly, context to back up what he was reporting on. And I need to underscore this, he was very, very well sourced. That's key. But the second skill, he had this heart and this compassion and the writing skills that made him truly the master of a feel-good story. And most journalists know that you don't typically find those two sharpened skills in the same person. You really don't, in the same reporter. You know, as reporters in the newsroom, after the morning meeting or the afternoon meeting, you often pay a lot of attention to what people are assigned to. And so Jon was the type of reporter in our newsroom who on a Monday or Tuesday could be assigned to do the lead story for the 11 o'clock news at the Gold Dome on the Capitol, reporting on the session for that day. And then that Friday, be sent to a high school basketball game to report on a teammate who was making the winning shot and getting cheered on by his entire community. And you actually saw a shot of that in that video. That story is more than a decade old, and I still remember watching it live, and I still remember how that story made me feel. That was the impact of Jon's writing. He had this level of compassion that I, as a 24-year-old journalist, had never seen close up. When you talk about writing and reporting, I'd never seen that in someone before. So I'll never forget, one day I teamed up with Jon. We were both nightside. If you know what nightside is, that's you get out the door late, you have to scramble to put something together, maybe get on the air for 6, turn something for 10, and something for 11. It's a lot going on. This was the last day of session. This was back in 2014, and a big topic was Georgia's medical marijuana bill. Some of you in the room may remember reporting on that night. There was this back and forth between chambers, this kind of down to the wire up until midnight, would it or would it not pass? And I remember watching Jon throughout the entire night, working those halls, knowing who to talk to, knowing who to call, understanding this very complicated process between the chambers. So he had that mastered, but then when his story hit the air, he talked about the families who had been advocating for this treatment for their kids, who were sad, who were depressed, and kind of juxtaposed this with the jubilant tearing of papers and throwing in the air of those papers to celebrate the end of the session. And so in a story that could have in many ways just kind of been this back and forth procedural, here's what's going on under the Gold Dome, politics type of thing, Jon Shirek brought heart. He brought the impact. And that's something that I have carried with me every day of my career since that night. You've heard a lot about Jon, about his kindness, about his compassion for those he interviewed or reported on. But as a young reporter, I can tell you that what stood out was his kindness to us, young reporters. So in those first few months at 11 Alive, I talked about the intimidation. I did a lot of observing, yes, but what I also did was a lot of sitting in those meetings and trying to hide the fact that I didn't know what the heck people were talking about. There was a lot of knowledgeable, intelligent-looking nods while people were throwing around terms. I mean, talk of city pensions, the backstory to this county or that county in different elections, wild hog supper, crossover day, all of these terms that I did not know, but I was trying to kind of smile and nod and look like I knew what was going on in the conversation, all the while keeping this little note of lists of things that I need to go back and Google later. So one day in a meeting, I decided to try and chime in, and I thought that I understood the subject matter well enough to speak intelligently and make a comment. So I said my little comment. Turns out I didn't understand it. It wasn't intelligent at all. In fact, it was the kind of comment from a young reporter that would could, arguably should, make an older reporter kind of roll their eyes. That is the exact opposite of what Jon Shirek did. He jumped in with a quick aside, not a correction, mind you, but just a gentle redirection, and then he gave me a reassuring smile to let me know that sometimes it takes a little longer to get these things. It was something that day that steadied me. It gave me confidence, and that was Jon's kindness. You know, as I prepared for tonight, I thought that there are a lot of us who cross through this Jon Shirek School of Journalism. And so I reached out to some of my friends. I mean, we've gone on now to work at network news levels. Some of us are leading newsrooms. News directors around the country have amassed multiple Emmy awards. And I asked them the simple question. I said, if you could think back on one thing that you learned from Jon, whether it was something that he told you, something he whispered to you after a story, or something that you took away just from watching him, that you still carry with you in your work today, what would that be? One person said his work ethic. He was prepared. Jon Shirek showed up to every story meeting early with a notepad full of ideas, and he never called attention to the fact that he showed up to the meeting early with a notepad full of ideas. Those are two skills in and of themselves. Another person underscored his empathy. The fact that he's someone who had been in the business for decades and still he felt for every person, every victim, and that caring was genuine. Another one, and this is a very big one, especially in newsrooms, Jon never complained. As many people know, certainly nobody in this room, being in this business can make for some gruff, cynical individuals. Again, nobody here. I was always struck by the fact, and many people, many of my friends from 11 Alive back in those days were struck by the fact that Jon Shirek was never one of those people. Even as the business changed around him, even as he turned those stories by grabbing his own camera, going out in those little Honda Civics that we had at the station and shooting his own stories, items at which even people who were hired as MMJs would complain about, Jon Shirek never complained. And that's something that we noticed. That's something that stuck with us. And then finally, Jon would lift us up. One person told me he was the first to send his congratulations or point out something in a story that made it feel special. And I have to say that as a young reporter, when somebody of Jon Shirek's caliber lifts you up, tells you that you're doing a good job or had a good story or a great live shot, that means something. It instills confidence. It instills the kind of thing that grows with you as you're growing in this profession. And it's the kind of thing that Jon would do freely from his heart. The last time that I saw Jon was down in Plains, Georgia. We were reporting on the funeral of former First Lady Rosalynn Carter. And Jon and I were standing side by side on the media platform in front of the church. And anybody who's ever done a live shot in here, you know when you're standing close to somebody and you finished your hit, but you know they're about to go, you kind of ear hustle. I want to hear what the person next to you is saying. I did that, not as a competitor, but as an admirer, because I knew that whatever Jon was going to say, it was going to be fantastic. And it was right. Jon had the history down. He knew more about the former First Lady, the former president, Plains, Georgia, anything than any of us standing on that platform. But what also stood out was the way that he delivered it. Jon delivered it in such an elegant, dignified, and just loving way. The way that you would send off somebody who was truly beloved, with dignity and grace. Someone like a former First Lady, or someone like a beloved journalist. And that's what I hope we're doing for Jon here tonight. So it's my true honor to bring up his best half, my dear friend and an incredible woman, Mrs. Nancy Nigut Shirek. No. I think that would be good. No, you go. Okay. Sure. Get a picture.
No, I want you to hold it.
You want me to hold it? Okay.
I can barely talk, let alone talk and hold a microphone. But
I got you.
So thank you. This is an incredible honor. As someone referenced, Jon turned this honor down so many times and always saying, no, there's too many other people out there who are so much more deserving than I am. But here we are. So I was in television news for more than 20 years, but I was always behind the scenes, telling people what to say. In Bill Nigut's case, I was telling him to stop talking. And as some of you know, I can still write a pretty good news release from time to time. But having to speak on Jon's behalf, the poet himself, it's terrifying. And part of me hopes this floor will just open up and swallow me right now. But here we are. So I went in search of courage and inspiration, and I went to the source. No, not that source. I found it in Jon's own words. This is part of what he wrote in his last WXIA annual employee assessment. These are Jon's words. This is the last time I'll be writing a self-assessment, and I was thinking not about career goals, but about career dreams come true. In the summer of 1972 in Florida, I had no idea what to do. I was about to enter my junior year of college and had to declare a major. For months, I agonized. I thought I was deciding what the rest of my life would be, which, as it turned out, was exactly what I was doing. Then in August, I was flipping through the University of Florida catalog, and I turned a page and I saw it. UF offered a course of study leading to a degree in broadcast journalism. Was that real? Since childhood, cue the picture. Okay, well, picture in your mind Jon dressed up on Halloween as a news reporter when he was probably 10 years old. I think there's a reason why that picture didn't show up. There he is. I fully expect lightning to strike right now. Since childhood, I have been fascinated with current events and news coverage. I was thirsty for information and insight and context. And when I turned the page of that catalog for the first time, I realized what I should have known all along. Maybe I could do that work. It was a moment of clarity like few others in my life. I could do what I love, or at least try to do it. And for whatever reason, there was still an opening in the UF College of Journalism and Communications for the fall of '72. I got in. Within the next few months, while going to classes, I was working as a reporter at a newspaper, a radio station, and a television station. Overachieve much, Jon? Breathing deeply, the sheer joy of doing what I love, learning along the way how to do it better and better, looking up to those who did it all so well. When I graduated in 1974, the Jacksonville television station where I had worked for a year kept me on, and I had the chance to do everything that there was to do: reporting, shooting, editing, producing newscasts, working the assignment desk, anchoring, hosting, and more. Then in 1980, I started at 11 Alive. The news director gave me my choice of two openings: weekend producer, weekday reporter, or Thursday through Monday reporter. I picked reporter. Day after day, I have poured all of myself into this work, trying to clear the bar set by some of the greatest journalists of any generation, here and across the country, on the staff and in management. And grateful through the good days and bad days that I've been able to do what I love, trying to help people who need information and insight and context. Sometimes offering inspiration, but always, always trying to make my best better for them. The stories where I especially excelled were not only the top of mind big stories everyone was covering that day, but my best stories were also rooted in the unique angles that I saw. I dug into those angles and advanced the big stories. And my best stories were also the seemingly minor ones that most of us might miss. But they were major stories to the people involved, and they were stories that speak to all of us. What people want from us is not just to reflect their world back at them and confirm some of what they already know, but I believe that beyond those popular condemnations of fake news, people still do turn to us wanting to find out what they don't know, what they realize they need to know, and what they hope and expect they will find out for themselves and their families every time they come to us. That's what I've always tried to do in my work, to present stories people need and present them in new and better ways, for people looking for clarity about their world. This year, surpassing 50 years at this and going strong, I had another one of those moments of clarity. This time I knew I was now going to say goodbye with a smile and a grateful heart to the career I have loved. On behalf of Jon, our family, our dear friends who are here with me tonight, and oh so many colleagues of Jon's and mine, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you for this incredible honor. Steps here. I hear all these wonderful stories about Jon's compassion, his calmness, his demeanor, and they're all true. But here's a story nobody knows. I went to Channel 11 to produce an hour from 5 to 6. We had been doing like a 5 to 5:30 and then Inside Edition and then the 6 o'clock news. But in preparation for the Olympics coming in a couple of years, they decided that they wanted to make it a full hour and a half straight through from 5 o'clock till 6:30 when nightly news came on. Well, a lot of you know that Jon, for years and years and years, covered the legislature. But there would come a time every spring when the legislature adjourned. So one day, Jon was out on a story. I don't even remember what the story was. And at about 2 o'clock, we learned that a young high school student, A student, sports star, had taken a different route home. He usually walked home with his friends. For some reason, the friends were tied up, and so he walked home alone, and he decided to take a shortcut, and unfortunately, the young man was killed. So this happened about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So we're running into, crazy time for reporters and meeting deadlines. So He was the only reporter in town and was the only reporter whose story was expendable that day. So he got the call, Jon, you gotta go cover this breaking news. I was like, oh my God, it's so late in the day, I don't have anything, how am I gonna get it? You want me live at 5, 5:30, 6 o'clock? So he was on the phone with the 6 o'clock producer. He was always in the 6 because of the legislature, and those stories are always aired at 6. So he gets done with talking to the 6 o'clock producer, and she says, okay, hold on, Jon, you have to talk to Nancy. You're the lead of the 5. She hands me the phone. I can already hear him fussing. And he fussed and fussed. I don't have a live truck. How am I going to get a live truck? Who's going to edit this? I got to get interviews. I got to do this. On and on and on this went. And I said, are you all done now? Because you're still the lead of the 5. Thank you. Thank you.
Not a Jon story that we would have ever imagined. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And our final inductees of the night, J. Lowell Ware and Janice Ware. Let's watch the video.
Hello, everyone. Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens here. It is an honor to join you as we celebrate the induction of Janice Ware and her father, the late J. Lowell Ware, into the Atlanta Press Club Hall of Fame. J. Lowell Ware started the Atlanta Voice in 1966 to amplify the voices of those who were too often ignored, demanding truth, fairness, and representation in journalism. Janice has carried that torch with visionary leadership, expanding the paper into the modern era while remaining steadfast in its commitment to spotlight every story that shapes and strengthens our communities. Their work reminds us that journalism is strongest when it reflects all voices. On behalf of the people of Atlanta, congratulations. Your legacy will be remembered for years to come.
We don't call Atlanta a city in a forest for nothing. Beyond the literal abundance of our city's beautiful tree canopy, we are fortunate to have a wealth of homegrown visionaries shaping the metro area. One family that exemplifies deep roots and is planting their own trees of influence is the Ware family, specifically Janice Ware and the late J. Lowell Ware.
They've done some great things for the community. And they did it with ease. They did it with their hearts.
Print was something you were pretty sure that you could believe and lend some credibility to. And then bringing the paper into the community, it meant a lot because it said to the community, you have a voice, not only because I'm publishing it, but because I am here with you.
From a printing press in the basement of the family home, to a commercial building on Pryor Street, to more than 1,800 affordable housing units in Atlanta's Mechanicsville community, the Ware legacy has grown into an incredible vision of family and community, thriving together.
Grandfather was not a biased person. I've seen him sit down and have dinner with dignitaries, and I've seen him sit on the sidewalk and have dinner with those that most people would find undesirable, right? So he was a true human, people person, and he cared about Atlanta, he cared about this city a lot. But he was big on integrity in being authentic and a genuine person, and he didn't bite his tongue.
Publisher, civil rights advocate, developer. J. Lowell Ware's life and legacy grew in many branches, but the role of father and grandfather reflect the core of who he was.
So we're a close-knit family, pretty small. My grandfather only had 2 daughters, my mom and my aunt. And my mom was the only one to have kids, so I have a brother and a sister. And so the relationship is tight-knit. We call the paper our office the office, and I really distinctly remember spending more time at the newspaper with my grandfather than I did at his house.
J. Lowell co-founded the Atlanta Voice in 1966 with Ed Clayton, a noted newspaper man with the motto, "A people without a voice cannot be heard." When Clayton died shortly after the printing of the first issue, J. Lowell took the reins and developed the publication, and many others through the years, into much more than a news source. It became a dynamic chronicle of community, empowering the voiceless and connecting the underserved.
I think his passion came from seeing a need for those persons who were really trying to do extraordinary things in our city at the time, for providing them an opportunity for their stories to be told. He was big on everything being the truth.
From the Atlanta Voice offices, which moved to Mechanicsville in 1970, J. Lowell noticed the decline and blight taking over. Vowing to restore the neighborhood, J. Lowell partnered with activist Rosa Burney. And the Summit Community Development Corporation was born in 1989.
The Sumac Community Development Corporation was founded by my father.
Today, Janice Ware continues to fulfill her father's vision.
Mechanicsville was going through a pretty rough transition, and it became clear over a short period of time that she would be a force to reckon with. And so the community, both Summerhill and Mechanicsville, began to appreciate some stabilization and then some reversal from the general degradation and from some of the difficulties that it was wrestling with, trying to overcome. And those communities began to thrive.
Either have to get into the event space or really master the digital space.
Today, Janice Ware continues to fulfill her father's vision. While many newspapers have gone all digital, the Atlanta Voice continues to produce a weekly print edition.
It's a really cool story on that.
But the next generation staff are also following a modern approach with real-time news on its website and other digital resources via newsletters and social media.
Janice was a student at the University of Georgia. She graduated from the University of Georgia. And when my father passed, she stepped up to the plate. She had a lot of great job opportunities and offers nationwide, and she chose to make the decision to stay here and to continue my father's legacy.
Janice taps into her business acumen, sense of integrity, and that familial pioneering spirit to forge powerful partnerships across Metro Atlanta and beyond. Those partnerships are taking root in new developments and areas of prosperity for the people of Mechanicsville and other areas of the city. The Atlanta Press Club is proud to induct Janice Ware and the late J. Lowell Ware into the Atlanta Press Club Hall of Fame.
Please join me in welcoming Justine Boyd, Assistant Vice President of the United Negro College Fund, to the stage to induct my dear sister.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. It is my distinct honor to introduce tonight's honoree, Janice Ware, a woman of focus, resilience, and unwavering commitment, and to acknowledge the legacy of her late father, Mr. J. Lowell Ware. Maya Angelou gave us a powerful charge when she said, If you are going to live, leave a legacy. Make a mark on the world that cannot be erased. Let me be absolutely clear. The Ware name is that mark. It is indelible. For me, that legacy is deeply personal. When I first arrived here in Atlanta almost 4 decades ago, fresh out of college and full of ambition, my very first job was at the Atlanta Voice newspaper. I had met Mr. Ware at West Hunter Street Baptist Church, where we were members and we were serving together on a committee. When he learned I was soon to graduate and would be in need of a job, he didn't offer me an interview. He didn't offer me a slot on an application. He hired me on the spot. That opportunity became so much more than just employment. It was the beginning of my life and career here in Atlanta. And more importantly, it was the beginning of family. The Wares didn't just welcome me into the workplace, they welcomed me into their world. At the Atlanta Voice, I learned the nuts and bolts of the trade, how to create a newspaper, how to run a printing press, but the real education came in the life lessons. Mr. Ware was a leader, steady, disciplined, and deeply committed to serving community. He believed that if you were placed in a position to help others, then you had a responsibility to do exactly that. And Janice hasn't just continued that calling, she has amplified it. So yes, I learned the work, but I also learned integrity. I learned courage. I learned the importance of standing for something bigger than yourself. The Ware story is a cherished, permanent chapter in my life. So as we engrave the names J. Lowell Ware and Janice Ware into the history of the Atlanta Press Club, please rise and join me as we welcome a woman of unwavering commitment, profound resilience, and extraordinary legacy, the incomparable Janice Ware.
To hold it, okay. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. That's a hard act to follow. Thank you so very much. I am honored and I'm humbled by this recognition and the induction into the Atlanta Press Club's Hall of Fame. My late father, J. Lowell Ware, was one of the founders and the visionaries behind the Atlanta Voice. His guiding motto, one we proudly uphold today, still defines our purpose: a people without a voice cannot be heard. Tonight, I thank the Atlanta Press Club, not only for recognizing me, but by honoring my late father for his enduring vision and wisdom. The Press Club has celebrated so many great individuals over the years, and I'm proud to say that I've known quite a few. If not personally, at least by their talents and their reputations. I began my career at the Atlanta Voice in 1977. After finishing the University of Georgia, my school, good, but I was from the School of Business. That was a long time ago. I thought that I would stay and work for my father for about 3 years. We see who won that fight. I thought it would pay him back for paying for my college education. I think that that debt has long been paid. And that was 48 years ago. I really did have some big shoes to fill. My father passed in 1991, and I was 35 years old. I will tell you that everyone who worked for the paper at that time was older than me. It was not a difficult role to step into because I was taught extremely well. My greatest champions have been my family. My mother, recently passed at the wonderful age of 95. And while she did not work at the paper, she did support the operations completely. And when my father wanted to purchase the building that we're located in right now, it was my mother who stepped up and said she would do that. So we're really excited about what we've done, and we're excited about the future. We realize that there are some challenges there, but the fact is there is a future, and we will continue to do all we can to stand strong. I would like to at least acknowledge my family, my staff. If you guys would not mind standing for me, I would appreciate it. As was stated in the video, I don't have any kids, but I have always accepted and opened my arms to the people who worked with me. I love them, I respect them, I admire them, and I trust them. And I'm most excited about Generation 3. So Gen 3, Richard Dunn was on the video. My niece Jasmine Brazier is in the audience, and she is that next generation to come in and take this paper or this news organization to the next level. And Jasmine, if you would stand. So, I just want to thank you for the honor, the recognition, and for having a wonderful evening tonight. Thank you so very much. You know, one of the things I want to say before I step off, Terry Lee with the Atlanta Housing Authority is in the audience, and I want you to know that she has purchased a table for her team to come, because from the housing development portion of it, she has really been my biggest cheerleader for the period of time that she's been in Atlanta. I think Atlanta has a great czar in the future of housing development here. Thank you so very much. Have a great one.
Congratulations, Janice. What a night. Let's give all of our honorees a big round of applause. I've got everybody's scripts up here. But I know what we're supposed to do right now. Congratulations once again, all our honorees. What a wonderful night. What an amazing group of inductees. Look at that. Look at that. Thank you to the Atlanta Press Club, to all of our wonderful sponsors who you see right there on the screen. Please make sure you support them because they support us in everything that we do. Without further ado, good night, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.